When they want the drought, there is no water. When it rains, there are floods.
Tukikosa tunakaa tu kwa njia, tumie na njia, ndio turudi jioni kono empty.
Kenya's arid and semi-arid lands have experienced increasingly frequent droughts in the recent past. How best can we fix this?
We need to come up with a mechanism on how we should be managing and maintaining our infrastructure once we put them in place.
Just what will it take for us to have a water-secure nation? Welcome to the program. My name is Elijah Mwangi, standing in for Alex Chamwada. Now, Chams media team has been traversing the arid and semi-arid lands in this country with the aim of critically analyzing the viability of some of the water development projects that are being set up by key stakeholders in the water sector. And so in this report, we are going to delve into projects in Garissa, Isiolo, Marsabit, Lamu, Wajir, and as far as Tana River County. But first, let's have our facts.
According to the United Nations Development Programme, Kenya's arid and semi-arid lands, commonly referred to as ASALs, make up to 89% of the country, covering 29 counties and a population of about 16 million people. The defining feature of the ASALs is their aridity. Annual rainfall in arid areas range between 150 millimeters and 550 millimeters per year, and in semi-arid areas between 550 millimeters and 850 millimeters per year. Water scarcity in ASALs leaves the majority of population dependent on unimproved water sources. Water Sector Trust Fund is the body mandated to provide conditional and unconditional grants to the counties. It also assists in financing the development and management of water services in the marginalized and underserved areas. The United Nations classifies Kenya as a water-scarce country. Estimates of water supply in the country indicate that only about 56% of the population has access to safe water.
The water coverage in the country currently starts at 60%, and it is our intention to move it to 80% by the year 2022. So we cannot increase the level of coverage unless we also do what we normally call the last mile connectivity. And the last mile connectivity is done through the water service providers.
Water is one of the mandates divided between national and county governments. It remains a national resource, but water service delivery is now a county responsibility. For the Chamwada Report, my name is Michael Zimati.
We start the show by looking at the water situation in Marsabit County. A county christened the cradle of mankind and tucked away in the northern part of the country, is the largest county in the country. Marsabit has some of the most contradicting weather patterns owing to the presence of Mount Marsabit that gives an illusion of highland weather despite being in the arid and semi-arid region. Water scarcity is a major issue in Marsabit County. Mark you, there are no permanent rivers here. Underground water, water pans, springs and rain harvesting are some of the ways used to alleviate the perennial water shortage problem in this area.
We don't have permanent water source in Marsabit or running rivers. So we depend on a spring in the heart of the forest, where a sort of a dam has been built to collect both rainwater and also to store the spring water. So as the population increases, then the demand for water is also increases. So that source where the urban population are depending on is not adequate at all.
But water crisis in Marsabit might become a thing of the past. At Kubikalo, residents line up to fetch tap water while animals are drinking water from the troughs. This project has been funded by the European Union through Danish international agency Danida. But the most interesting thing about it is that this project is managed by the locals in order to make it sustainable.
We charge with the capacity of the water boozer. There is a water boozer of 4,000 the capacity yake, with the water boozer of 3,000. It depends with the capacity, then kuna ya 1,500. Normally with 7,000 and above, tuna charge 3,500, 4,000. Then 7,000 below, tuna charge 2,000 up to 1,500.
This project gets approximately an income or a revenue earned a month as much as 300,000 shillings. When they remove the expenditure is around 160. They have a profit of 150 plus every month. So when they have a breakdown on their generators, they buy them their own. When they, like fueling it, like paying the people, the operators that take care of the project, and the watchman and all that, they do it on their own. They don't get any support from any other person.
Such projects managed well could be the solution to the perennial water shortages in these areas, and Ismail Fahmy, the CEO Water Sector Trust Fund, says this is the way to go.
If I was to add the 11th commandment to the 10th commandment, is that water is not free. So if Kenyans we are not paying for water, then we'll be relying on our national coffers, especially Treasury, and the well-wishers civil society to be funding the same project over and over and again. So with the pressure that we have from all the devolved functions in this country, somehow Treasury is the cow that we milk, all of us. We don't expect, how we are over-milking Treasury, that there will be money from the taxpayers that will be taking care of those infrastructures. So we need to come up with a mechanism on how we should be managing and maintaining our infrastructure once we put them in place.
The community around Kubikalo has now diversified and ventured into crop farming through overhead irrigation.
We did a cost-benefit analysis to come up with which crops will yield high profit. So we just came up with that combination of tomato, onions, kales, the spinach, and watermelon, knowing that the market is readily available.
This will help me produce food for my family and also sell to get money for my use.
From what one would term as an oasis of hope in Kubikalo, where we pick key lessons on management of water resources, we cross over to Isiolo County. This is Galabilabia Water Project. Of interest here is how it operates. Isiolo is hot and solar energy is abundant. This is what is powering the borehole.
We have the solar panels, which are 32 in number, and each panel has 200 watts. So in total, we have 6,400 watts or 6.4 kilowatts. So that solar energy is converted into electrical energy, and we have a submersible pump, which is pumping water up to the water kiosk.
Galabilabia Water Project is a success story on how water development projects in ASALs can tap into innovative solutions, such as solar power technology. Vincent Kitio, an environmentalist and solar energy expert, recommends use of solar energy as the most economical and beneficial power solution while protecting environment.
There is something that has been happening in the last 4 years, 5 years. There is what we call the renewable energy revolution that is coming to Africa. In 2009, only 1 million people in sub-Saharan Africa were connected to the solar system, 1 million. And today, as I speak, there are like 9 million people, 9 to 10 million people, household in Africa that relied on solar energy. So you can already see just in the last 7 years, we move from 1 to 9. And as more as we go, the development is really is peaking, is taking. There is an uptake use on renewable energy.
The Galabilabia community are pure pastoralists, and so the water project could not have come at a better time.
Vile maji imetokezea hapa karibu, hata nafanya kazi yangu mzuri. Vile meteremko huku mali nafanya kazi, iko msitu huku. Panikine na fanyanga kazi ya kukata makaa, ama naenda kuchunga mbuzi kidogo ile iko naye, kukuja nakuta maji iko. mpaka anafungia tena naenda mpaka wapi huko. Saa hii kazi yangu yote mnafanya mzuri.
Kila mtu yote ile iko mali yote ile iko ya ngamia, ile ya ng'ombe, ya mbuzi, ya punda, yote amekuja kukunya maji hapa.
In the neighboring Garissa County, there is another project funded by European Union through Danida. Shimbri Water and Sanitation Project has come in handy, eliminating water tracking that has characterized the region for the last 2 decades, easing the lives of the community members. County governments play a critical role in managing such projects.
Water governance is a serious issue. What we are doing currently is we have a new Water Management Act that was passed in 2018 by the Garissa County Assembly. So among other things, what we want to do is we want to have rural water company that will work like Gawasco, which will basically manage all water user associations in this county. So what this institution will do is it will take the responsibility of capacitating the water user associations and ensuring that all water supplies in the rural Garissa are maintained. This will basically ensure that we fix the long outstanding problem of governance in this region, and ensure that there's sustainability of these water supplies. Even as we invest, we ensure that we have sustainable water supplies in this county.
The challenges of the 21st century require new thinking. And one of it I can tell you is, as Kenyans, we need to see how we can resolve. We cannot be implementing projects the way we were doing since independence. I'll give you a very good example. Boreholes were there since we were born. Any infrastructure that exists, the question that we need to ask ourselves is, how come things are not working? How come a borehole that you did 6 months ago or a year ago is not working all of a sudden? We realize that the issue and our answer and the solution to our problem is governance. Governance meaning, who is going to take care of this borehole? Let us ask ourselves, before even we rush to constructing the borehole, can we sit down with the community and ask ourselves, who is actually going to be taking care of this borehole? Then, once we agree and we say it's community X, if it's community X, it's from there then we can say, we can build the capacity, bring them on board, share with them all the issues about the borehole and what it will entail, including paying for water.
At this point, we take a short break, but when we return, we take this conversation a notch higher, engaging relevant stakeholders with the aim of seeking a long-lasting solution to water scarcity in these areas. The Constitution of Kenya recognizes water and sanitation as a basic human right, and it does not end there. When you look at United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 6, it talks of access to water and sanitation for all. The water question is not only a local or rather a national issue, it is an international issue. Now, on this second part of the show, we are going to look at various roles that stakeholders can play to make this country water secure. To understand the management of water services and resources in the country much better, one has to look back at the long journey of water reforms in the country. A journey that started with the Water Act 2002, which at that time was dubbed Mother Karrua's Act.
Previously, before we got the Water 2002, water sector was centralized in terms of the national government was the one that was in charge of, the Ministry of Water was the one in charge of doing investments, looking at the water resources, and so many institutions were not there. So everything was being coordinated at the ministry level, and this was too much for the ministry to handle. So when the Water Act 2002 came into place, it created institutions and gave them mandates. the mandates to be able to implement water sector and water resource management at the decentralized level. So we now, the Water Act created water services boards that now were mandated to undertake infrastructure development for the water sector. It also created Water Resource Management Authority to focus more on water resources management, the water before it gets into the pipe. So that is the water in the rivers, the water in the dams, the water in the hills or in the swamps was being now mandated under the Water Resource Management Authority. So Water Sector Trust Fund was also created as a financing body to facilitate investments or to fund investments in the underserved areas where water is actually not a priority or not there for the people to be able to access.
And talking of marginalized and underserved areas, this is Grift Water and Sanitation Project in Wajir West Sub-County. In 2015, the project received a grant from Water Sector Trust Fund through the EU Share Program to equip this borehole with solar pumps and accessories.
I have benefited from this project a lot. I use it at my home and I am also a water vendor.
It seems it was a good idea to have the Water Act 2002 after all. Key development organizations and agencies are now supporting the water sector.
When you think about resilience in Kenya, you think about 80% of the landmass being ASALs, so arid and semi-arid lands, which means that 80% of the land in Kenya is affected by droughts. Maybe not every year, but every few years. There's a cyclical dependency on rains, which come or don't come. And what we're trying to do with the EU support more broadly is to build up resilience in Kenya so that the national systems can prepare and respond better to incidents of drought.
Danish International Development Agency, DANIDA, is another key institution funding water projects in arid and semi-arid lands. In Lamu, projects are running. When we visited Tana River, an area that was prone to inter-community clashes due to water scarcity, these water projects have become a source of life and peace.
We have seen also in the past year that water facilities can become the target of conflict, and I think it's very important then also to work with communities in terms of making sure that you have an equal distribution of facilities, of services, and try to avoid fights around water resources becoming an issue of conflict.
I think water as a resource is a major source of conflict between farmers and pastoralists and even communities living in Kurawa. For a long time, the groundwater itself, we had experienced conflict. But we have put structures in place, a very strong peace committees with 14-point declaration. We had committees at water points to manage the conflicts. We had conflicts between pastoralists themselves on watering of the livestock because everybody wants to come first. So to address issues, we have established committees at watering points who are regulating the water consumption.
Well, these projects could be running for now, but for them to be sustainable, good governance is key. This is because they require the goodwill of both national and county governments to thrive. After all, they are under the water services providers in the counties. Now, some counties are struggling with what could be termed as teething problems of devolution when it comes to management of water services and resources. An issue that has to be streamlined to avoid conflict, which could resort to mismanagement of key projects.
The constitution itself was very, very clear, and police water has a concurrent function. It is both premised at the national government and both at the county government. So what we need to come up with, and we already have, is a framework of cooperation. And we have it between the national government and the Council of Governors, so that we look at the ways of jointly managing this resource. If it's not properly managed, then we would have communities even actually fighting. Now, having said that, the Water Act defined the roles of each of these two levels of government. The national government was left with the regulations. The water service providers are wholly owned by the county governments. So there is no ambiguity on that. In fact, what we are currently doing is to come up with a plan to transfer all the water service providers from our current water boards, the water service boards, that are the 8 of them, because they are the ones that hold those some of the assets that the water service providers have.
What will it take to have a water secure nation? I believe now you have an idea, and that marks the end of our show. On behalf of the entire Chams media team that has made this production a success, thank you so much for watching. My name is Elijah Mwangi, standing in for Alex Chamwada, and see you next time.